Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
My body is ready.
That's really not necessary.
Oh.
Okay, so we're gonna have a little fun. I am Andrew Mail. I'm the lead programmer for Lighthammer FX and probably about 30 other companies that I don't know about. This is this is Jordan Kane, who's injured right now. He did something to his back, so when you see him do that stuff, that's what that is. But Jordan is a 3D modeler. Specifically, he is the lead environment artist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He's the lead environment artist for Lighthammer FX. And what we thought we would do, because we had a few discussions and realized we need to expand our horizons in order to keep ourselves happy, we thought it would be funny, or at least interesting, if two of the leads tried to teach each other what they do. So what you're going to see here is me trying to teach Jordan how to program, or at least the beginning of it. We're going to do these in like 30-minute blocks. They'll be close to that. I don't know about exactly though.
Yeah.
Close. Anyways. So, Jordan.
Yes, Andy?
We already talked about this,
Yeah.
but just to kind of get it on camera, we're going to make a really stupid but effective
Right.
browser-based adventure type game. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're just going to call it the browser
Adventure.
Browser adventure?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
I did that like 5 minutes ago. I already don't remember. This is going to be great. So we're going to do browser adventure. And the reason we're doing browser adventure is because it's a little bit easier for me to get someone started off on programming who doesn't really know any. Jordan has dabbled before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we're going to approach it like you don't know any, and then hopefully we'll just get to fly through certain parts. It'd
Hopefully.
be nice. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
We'll cross our fingers. Okay. So browser adventure.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to write this in PHP. We're probably not going to run anything today. We'll see. So I use, what do I use? I use Visual Studio Ultimate 2012 with PHP tools, which is from DevSense. I think that's the name of the company.
Okay.
I think so. I don't think I have an extra copy because I actually paid for this one.
All right. Oh no!
Not that I wouldn't ever pay for anything, because that's bad.
What? Yes. Keep going.
That was a little slip up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's go like that, and we'll call the new project Brower Adventure. Brower. Okay. So, yeah, great. We're done. So, PHP, technically it used to stand for like hypertext preprocessor or something like that. The name was always weird, but the point is, it was a language that this guy Erasmus Leerdorf, I think. Yeah, I wasn't really asking you, but he made this language because he wanted to use something to do like CGI scripting on web pages, and he didn't feel like using Perl. I think I don't think he likes Perl.
Okay.
Yeah. So, PHP. It's kind of based off of the syntax of the C language, although it's starting to go toward another language called Java now. None of that's relevant. Okay, so the way that PHP works is it's actually just text files. So whenever you save the file as a .php, it's just text. You can use Notepad or whatever you want to edit it. But whenever it runs on a web server that has PHP installed, the PHP will see the file and say, oh, this is a PHP file. And it'll look through, and it'll look for these. So you have the open question mark PHP and then the end question mark down there. It looks for those things. Those are those tokens, we'll call them.
Right.
And it knows that anything inside of there it needs to interpret as PHP. So if I were to run this right now, which I don't think I can. So let's just speed up through this one. I'll do this really quickly. So this is IIS. It's one way of getting PHP to run on a machine. I can get it set up for you. There's plenty of tutorials on how to do it online.
Okay.
It's not that hard. But now, if I go here, I should see nothing. Ah, there we go. Hello world. So, what I was going to say is, inside of these things, the PHP, it sees this and it says, okay, echo is a specific command, it's a function, and so what that does is it prints output.
Right.
It's actually synonymous with another one called print. There used to be some differences in speed, but they do the same thing basically.
I remember echo from like batch files and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually exactly where they came from, I think, or where it came from.
Go me.
Yeah, go you. Go you. We need a tally. Let's make sure you put like a tally. Whenever you get something good, we do a ding.
Like a chart with gold stars on it?
Yes. Oh, that's going to be... Alright. Okay, so what's actually happening here, so it sees echo and it says, okay, well, I'm going to print whatever comes next. And then you have the double quotes around the string hello world, which if you go here and you control U to look at the source code, you see there are no double quotes.
Right.
The quotes just signify that what is in between them is a string.
Right.
Quick caveat, if you put another one there, you're going to break it.
Makes sense.
Now it doesn't show us that because I don't have my PHP configured to show us errors.
Right.
But if I actually let me go like this. Don't pay attention. Don't pay attention.
Not paying attention. Totally not paying attention.
Why isn't it working? Okay, well. Yeah, that's going to happen a lot to me.
Alright.
I've been doing this a long time. I don't even know what version I'm running on here, but whatever. So the point was, if you throw a quotation in the middle of something that's already using that same quotation, because you can do this with single quotes too. I'm going to do this, and you get the same result.
Alright.
Alright, it's still a string.
Mm-hmm.
There are some differences between the two, but I mean, again, same instance, it breaks, it goes away. The way that you get around that is the ones that are inside, you put the backslash in front of it.
Oh, alright.
It's the term for that is escape character. And it's basically telling the parser, which is PHP in this case, it's saying, hey, the character after this one is special somehow. So whatever else you may have going on, just check and make sure that it's not going to mess with that. Because now it says, oh, hey, so, well, if that's a quotation mark, okay, well, then I'll just leave my other quotation mark, my actual string, alone. Nice thing about having something like Visual Studio or Notepad++, Etherpad Pro, all these things with syntax coloring, makes it really easy to see when you've broken a string.
True.
So, the thing is, I take away that semicolon, it
That shouldn't have worked, should it?
no, it should not have worked. Is it because I only have one line? Yeah. No, that's pretty neat. It's kind of trying to be smart. Okay, so say, hey, we're both learning things here.
Yeah, I knew
Minor,
that.
minor things. Yeah, yeah. Semicolon very important at the end of every line. That is a statement, and I say it that way because you're gonna have lots of lines that won't need them too. But things like a statement, like this echo, they have to have a semicolon on the end. So I put it in the parentheses there. I just like doing that. You don't have to do it for echo, but the thing is, most other things that you call, you do have to use them. So it's just easier to get into that.
For organization.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's how you put a string out onto the page.
All right.
Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what HTML is? Well,
Yes.
I have to pretend you don't for the moment. So HTML, hypertext markup language, it's what makes web development really painful.
Yeah.
That and clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so let's say that we want to make this bold, right? So we'll do it the right way for now. I'm going to put strong tags around that. And hey, look at that. Now you see the tags are there. So this is kind of important to get back to the whole how it processes PHP and everything. You notice it doesn't actually show any of the other stuff that I have here. You don't see echo. You don't see these things.
Right.
That's kind of important because whenever you're doing something, you can be relatively confident that the code you use to generate output will not be shown, only the output.
That was the one thing when I was trying to figure out PHP to begin with. I saw all this code, and then when I view source, I really saw none of that.
Yeah.
And I was confused what the hell is going on.
Like, let's say for whatever reason I have a password in here. We'll have that later on for like connecting to a database or something. When I go to the page, it's still not there.
Right.
So I won't tell you that it's completely secure because, well, I think you know enough about computers to know that that's just wrong.
Yeah.
But the point is, generally speaking, you can be pretty confident that it won't show your code. So actually, let's get into those things right now. So you have different core types of things in programming. I'm using very high-level vocabulary right now. So one of them are these things like statements, and statements can be a couple different things, but right now we're looking at the echo statement, and what you actually would usually say is the echo function. And it's a function because, are you familiar with functions in math? How you can basically, a function of x can actually be a full equation that you do to x.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so it's the same basic thing. In this case, echo is a function that takes a string and it outputs it to the screen. It's kind of like if I have a function x that is the square root of x squared, because I don't feel like doing real math right now. It means that every time you put in a number into x and run it through that function, f of x, it's going to give you the output of the function. So square root of the square. So if I put in 2, I'm going to get 2, because 2 squared is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. Obviously, that's terrible math because there's no point in doing that. But the point is, you have an equation which keeps doing the same thing no matter what number you put in there. It's the same premise for functions in programming. I put in this string and it always does a certain number of things that end up with us getting that.
All right.
Now, echo is really simplistic, of course, but the idea is basically the same everywhere. Now, all of these things like this, we'll get into all the function stuff later, but the things that go inside of there, they're called arguments or parameters, depending on which side you're coming from. And you can have multiple ones, you can have a dynamic number of ones, so you may not even know when you write it how many you're going to get when it's used. There's lots of different ways to do them. I don't know if we'll get into that, but we might, just to show it. But another thing that's really important for programming is variables. Variables again, just like math, there's like really strong corollaries with math. I wonder why that is.
Can't imagine.
Nah, Leibniz would be proud. So variables, just as in mathematics, are things that can hold information. In mathematics, of course, you can hold numbers. And a lot of times when you're looking at an equation in mathematics, you're trying to figure out what numbers or number can go into a variable to make the equation work, right? Not exactly what we do here, but we do hold information. So, like before, I had put in my password equals 1234, which is a terrible password. Don't ever use that as your password, ever. You make a programmer cry. So, we have variable myPassword. Variable always consists of the $sign and then a letter, A through Z. The letter can be uppercase or lowercase.
All right.
But the first character of it, the first part of the name of the variable, always has to be a letter. After that, it can be numbers, it can be the underscore. It can't be a dash, it can't be any other character really, but it can be 0 through 9 and the underscore.
All right.
There's no real limit on the size of the name of a variable, but as you get into building things, you're going to learn that making them descriptive but still somewhat succinct is very, very, very useful. Now, of course, there's tons of different things that we get into later, like classes and objects and stuff, which kind of simplify the job of organizing your code, but for now, just know that you should try to be descriptive with your code. Like, if you look at this code right now, do you know what the value of the myPassword variable is? Do you know what it's used for? Or at least, do you understand what it's meant to be?
I think so.
It would just be myPassword.
Right.
Because I've named it myPassword. You can make a lot of people's lives easier that way. Now, of course, there is always the job security route, which is just to name everything like as briefly as possible. Like I've definitely worked on sites where, and other code too, where people had entire sections of code where it was just as many 1 or 2 letter variable names as possible. So you spend half of your time going, which variable is this again? I don't remember. You end up actually writing out a diagram that tells you how they're each used. And then you go find that person and you impale their head on a pike. So don't be that guy.
Right.
Ever. Good?
We're good.
Okay, good. So, get back to it here. So, variables can hold different types of information. We call it data in programming and computers in general, but all a variable really is it is just a section of memory. And when I put the string 1234 and I assign it to the variable myPassword, what I'm saying is the memory where myPassword lives has the string 1234 in it. So different types will have different amounts of memory that they use, and of course they can grow or shrink as the system sees fit.
Right.
But all this is doing is storing 1234 into a memory address, which you can then access just by saying myPassword. So if I wanted to actually just print my password out on the screen, I'm just going to call echo myPassword.
And it would put on the screen 1234.
That's exactly what it's going to do. Thank God it actually worked. So yeah, I mean that's all it does, because now anytime I go back into my code where I need to use my password, I just write $myPassword. One thing to be aware of, PHP is case sensitive, or at least it used to be. Let's see. Okay, so it is case sensitive, which means myPassword and myPassword are absolutely different if the capitalization is wrong.
Right.
Which we just demonstrated, because now that it's back, it actually works again. So different variable types. Let's see. So strings. Obviously, we've already covered strings. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Strings are pretty much anything. It can be letters, numbers, characters, whatever.
Right.
There are some oddities with like wide characters, like Unicode stuff from languages like Japanese, Mandarin, blah blah blah. Sometimes you can trip yourself up, but usually PHP is getting pretty good at not breaking as a result of that. It just might not display as you expect it to.
All right.
But they're working on it. So the next one would then be numbers or integers, as they're commonly referred to. Integers are pretty much exactly what you remember them as from mathematics. It's 0 through whatever, but it's not a decimal.
Not a
So
decimal.
1, 2, 3, 4. Because there's no quotes around it, it's a number now.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. Now, of course, Echo doesn't really care. So if I just do that, I'm going to get the same exact result.
Right.
But okay, so that works just fine. Let's say we do plus 12. So great. That works.
Yeah.
Addition. Most of your operators are the same. Multiplication looks like this. Division looks like that.
Yep.
This one is one called modulus. I'll explain
Oh,
that someday. It's basically, though, the short version is it's looking for the remainder. It's division and looking for the remainder. We'll get to that someday. And of course, minus and everything. So just to demonstrate what happens if I try to subtract from that. Oops.
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there it goes. So, alright, so that's working correctly. The reason for that is probably because I don't have any non-numeric characters in here. If I do that, come on. Oh, there we go. So, interesting. See, I just learned something. If it begins with a number, it still just kind of says it's a number if you try to do a mathematical operation on it. But if it begins with a letter, then it just kind of does some weird shit. Now it's actually negative 12, which doesn't make much sense, but then again, neither does trying to subtract 12 from AEAF. 1, 2, 3, 4, AE, AE. So, back to the types. So, my Boolean. Boolean values, you'll know this from modeling. Boolean is only one or the other.
Yeah.
You have true and you have false. That is all that you have. Now, an interesting thing with PHP, I'm going to echo this. What do you think that this is going to show me when I do the echo for the Boolean, which is true right now?
I'm guessing it'll either show true or 1.
You're not supposed to know that, but okay. So it shows 1.
Why am I not supposed to know that?
We're supposed to know that.
Boolean is 0 and 1, true and false.
That's binary, not Boolean.
It still shows up with the same thing in every other program, like UDK.
Fuck off. You ruined my moment. Damn it, Jordan. This is going to be how this is this whole fucking time.
Yep.
God, I hate you already.
Yeah, I know.
Alright, well, the reason this is important is because you have to realize that sometimes true is not true and sometimes false is not false in PHP.
Okay.
I'll get into that more when we get into conditionals, but basically, since true is 1 and false is 0, or nothing, whatever, false is often 0. False can be represented as 0. If you have something that can return a valid number 0, like let's say the position of a character in a string, because a string is 0 indexed, so the first character is actually the 0th character.
Okay.
Therefore, 0 would actually be valid. So if it returns 0, you go, oh, well, that's actually what I want. But if you say, if you just do a simple comparison, 0 is false. So if you try to say, well, did you find this character? And it says, well, I found it at position 0. Your check as to whether or not it's false will say that it is false.
Okay.
And you'll think you haven't found it when in actuality it's right there at the beginning.
All right.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little weird. I'll show you that. It'll probably make more sense when we get to conditionals.
Right.
But just keep in mind, Boolean values, true or false, or 0 and 1. And technically 0 and non-zero. Because anything that's not 0 is technically true, since false is 0.
Alright.
Okay. So let's do floats or decimals or whatever you want to call it. I think they're called floats in PHP. I never remember. But so that's just do the typical one. 3.14. Hey, look at that. It echoes it. I mean, you're noticing that Echo pretty much just puts out whatever it can. It's not very picky. It's hard to get Echo to not work. But it does happen. Let's see. So, am I missing one? I feel like I might be missing one. I'm gonna be pissed if I miss one. There's more complex ones, but I'm gonna feel really stupid when I realize what it is I'm missing. But okay, so we have like 4 more minutes. So the more complex ones, we're just gonna get into one of them right now. Arrays. Arrays are when you have like a missile array. What does that mean to you?
A missile array?
Yes, an array of missiles. That's a term.
Alright.
I'm pretty sure. Might not be. But roll with it. Well, what does it make you think of? How about that? If an array of missiles was an actual thing, what would it make you think of?
It makes me think of a cluster of missiles.
Or okay, like that's fine. That's right.
Alright.
That's right. Group,
yeah,
collection, cluster, yeah. We can use a lot of different synonyms there. But the basic idea is it's a number of the same thing.
Alright.
Or a number of things, I guess, would be most accurate in PHP's world. Again, much further down the line. So, alright, so for array stuff, so, my array, in PHP, all you do to create an array is you just do that.
Right.
And, technically now if I do this, it's going to just say array. The reason it just says array, no matter what I put inside the array, is that it doesn't know how to display the array's contents automatically.
Alright.
So what we'll do is I'll go in here and we'll just do a simple array. Maybe C, right? So now that is an array of 3 characters, A, B, and C. Arrays are 0 indexed, just like strings.
Right.
Hint, strings are actually just arrays of characters, but further. So what this means is if I want to show the second character, I actually want to do that.
With the brackets.
The brackets, yes. You notice I use 1. 1 is the index.
Alright.
First character is 0. Third character is 2.
Right.
So what is actually happening up here in this one is you're seeing this being done for you.
Oh, alright.
And that operator is very specific. That is the operator, so that if you want to do that, you'll see it in another episode. We won't have time to get to that, but fuck it, we'll do it anyways. But yeah, that's the assignment operator for arrays, so that you can associate an index with a value.
All right.
So okay, so all of that, I could actually leave that in there and it'd work just fine.
But it's not needed.
It's not needed, so why confuse you with it, right? So, okay, so now I have this array of 3 things, but it's just printing an array. What I'd like to see is I'd like to actually see the array. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a different function. And this function, print_r, it kind of works the same way as echo. But what it's really doing is it's looking at the variable and the type of data that the variable has. And if it sees that it's complex, like, say, an array, it's going to actually print out the contents of that array for you. So now I can see 0A, 1B, 2C. This is really useful for like looking at information that you maybe get back from a database or something like that. It's good stuff. We'll get to it.
Is there a way to print out a specific index of an array?
There absolutely is, Jordan. All right. We're going to go back to echo. And we're going to say, which one do you want to print out?
Let's go for 1.
The first index or index number 1?
Index 1. Second index.
Okay. So, okay. Hey, stop. Yeah. Okay, so we're back to echo, and I'm using those brackets again.
Right.
One way to think of arrays is that it's really just a collection of variables.
Right.
Each index is actually a variable that has data of its own. Where it gets cool is that inside of those variables, you can put other variables that hold variables, and then have more variables within those. You can have multi-dimensional arrays is what those are called, because there's multiple dimensions to the grid, which is a good way to think of arrays. Think of them as being a grid. Oftentimes, as we do this, you'll see me do my code like this, because it's a little bit clearer to read.
Right.
Unless it's a simple one where it's just single characters or something like that, I almost always do it this way. So, okay, so echo my array first or index number 1. So now I'm doing bang, B.
Right.
Simple. Where we can have some fun is we can make this an associative array, which is a fancy way of saying you have a string as your index.
Okay.
So, like, let's say I want to do name, Jordan Kane. Okay, well, I thought that would be funny, but
no, no, don't no.
Occupation, 3D modeler. We'll just say that. And drink. Green. What the fuck was that? Green tea.
Yep.
Alright. So, now, I'm going to come back to this in a moment.
Okay.
But, so at this point now, if I want to show what your name is, I'm going to say my array name. This is a little bit easier to understand than my array 1, my array 0, etc. And it works exactly as you'd expect.
Right.
What's kind of cool, though, is, despite that still being there, oh my god, it doesn't work anymore.
What did you do?
Well, I just learned something about PHP.
Alright. What is that?
Well, let's just say that Andy doesn't do this very often. And apparently there's a reason.
Okay.
And I just found it out again.
So what is that reason?
Well, see, it used to work.
Okay.
It used to be that you could have an associative array, like we have here, and you could still use the numbered indexes, the numerical indexes, to access the elements. It turns out you cannot. So, a little bit of fun for you. If I do this and say password, actually still kind of a fucked up password, but whatever. Okay, so there we go.
Alright.
Variables and everything. The thing is, you can't use a variable before it's defined. But what I could do is I can say, I can do number. And now I can change the value of my number equal to my array number. So that should be, what's my number going to be?
The last index that you put in there.
That one?
Yeah.
You know, Jordan, you're not that bad.
It's not that difficult.
Well, for some people it is, honestly. For some people, the concept of making memory move and everything like that is very foreign. So,
well, I will say that when I first started I did do some programming to start with. So when I first started this, I really struggled with that. So I mean, over the years, I've probably picked it up through other stuff.
And it's hard, and it gets harder when we get to the languages that we're going to use later this year.
All right.
But
I don't think you have time to explain it, but I'm wondering, with these arrays, are you able to uh, input values into array from your code that you generate?
What do you mean?
Like on.
So like if I want to change the value of the drink down here.
I mean, in the actual browser, like have a text field in the so you can.
Oh,
input
sure.
in. All right.
We're a little bit far away.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say, I was like, you don't need to explain. I just want to know if it's possible.
Bam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stored in memory. Complex ones like arrays, it's still just variables within variables. They make it a little bit nicer to hold data in a format that's easier to keep track of.
Mhm.
There is one other thing called objects, which are even nicer, but they all have their use. And one of the hardest things with programming is figuring out the correct time to use each of them.
Right.
I'm not going to be very able to teach you that. That's just something you learn with time.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, as we go through this, I'll try and say stuff like, all right, as we go through and do this, I'm going to do this because da 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 da. And that might be useful.
Yeah.
I might be completely wrong though too. The thing is, most programmers don't agree with each other. I don't know if that's how it is with modelers.
There's some of that, yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of bickering.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bickering between programmers.
Yeah.
I imagine I could catch a lot of flack for this video. I'm looking forward to it. But, alright. Looks like that's it.
All right, cool.